You're watching ABC 7 News at 7.
I just think it's unnecessary, and I think it is another way of sort of slapping around public education.
School board members. Florida voters may decide in November whether their local school board should have term limits, just like the governor. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on term limits for school board members in a moment. But first, our top 7 stories at 7.
Critics say if you ignore them, think of what you can accomplish. So today, with my wife by my side, I'm announcing I am running for the U.S. Senate for the great state of Florida.
It is the closest thing we have in Florida to a heavyweight boxing match. Florida Governor Rick Scott is running for U.S. Senate, the Republican governor taking on the only Democrat currently holding statewide office, Senator Bill Nelson. The two-term governor made this announcement in Orlando, setting the stage for what will be one of the highest profile battles in the upcoming midterm elections. Tonight, Sarasota's school superintendent is responding after the publication of text messages between school board member Eric Robinson and Sheriff Tom Knight. That exchange criticizing Superintendent Tom Bowden on other school board members. Robinson and Knight were discussing funding for school resource officers and plans to undermine the superintendent. Just a few hours ago, the superintendent releasing this statement saying, quote, "Recently there have been a lot of negativity in the news regarding issues between me, school board members, and other government entities in our community. It is time to remind ourselves of our goal, which is to keep students safe while at school and provide the best learning experiences possible for the success of both academically and personally." Parking at Siesta Beach has always been free, but now there is talk of charging fees. Last month, the Siesta Chamber of Commerce was asked to conduct a survey on charging fees. Nearly 85% voted against charging any Sarasota County property owner a fee, but about 65% were in favor of charging visitors for parking at rates comparable to other beach communities. Commissioners are expected to discuss the plan on Wednesday. An update now on the Bay of Sarasota project. 3 concept designs are on the table as possibilities for the 53 waterfront acres. The Van Wezel is not one of them. That's because the Van Wezel Foundation has had plans for a new performing arts center as part of the Bay Sarasota. Now it is up to the community to decide whether or not the current Van Wezel facility will be repurposed or demolished.
Now is the time for everybody who's got an opinion and an interest and a concern and a fear and a hope and a dream to come out and help us shape what is actually going to go to the City Commission this fall.
There are 3 community forums next week where you can give your feedback on the 3 concept designs. You can see those designs on the screen. And for more information, you can visit our website at mysuncoast.com. Sarasota deputies are releasing a video of a road rage incident, hoping someone will be able to identify the vehicle involved. Take a look. It shows a motorcyclist seeming to yell at the vehicle next to him when the gray Mazda swerves, slamming into him and knocking him off the bike. The video taken around Sunday at 5 p.m. by a witness at the intersections of Beneva Road and Riviera Drive. Anyone with information is being asked to contact the sheriff's office immediately. Next time you head to the gas pump, don't be surprised to see prices are up. At an average of $2.60 per gallon, fuel prices in the state are now the highest in 4 years, and according to AAA, the price increases are not expected to slow down anytime soon. AAA says there are multiple reasons.
People feel good about the economy. Consumer confidence is up, so people feel better about spending a little more money to travel, and so they're driving more. So there's an increased demand.
According to the app Gas Buddy, the average price of regular gas right now in Sarasota is $2.56, with the lowest price in the area at $2.45. A proposal that is nothing to crow about. The city of Palmetto is looking to update its ordinance banning roosters and limiting the number of chickens at any one home. The city has been receiving complaints from neighbors who say roosters have been noisy and chickens have caused a significant odor. The updated ordinance would require people who own roosters and more than 6 chickens to have them relocated outside the city limits within 90 days. It would also require people to keep them inside a contained area and at least 20 feet away from their closest neighbor. The ordinance is expected to pass during the next Monday commission meeting. Now let's head over to our ABC 7 chief meteorologist, Bob Harrigan, with the first forecast. Jokes, please, Bob.
I was thinking of some. I can't get it. It's Monday, Alan. Give me a break here, okay? It's more like Thursday or Friday. We are now looking at the Van Wezel webcam, looking pretty calm conditions out there, out over the waters. Some clouds every once in a while coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. The humidity is much higher here, and that is a result of that south to southwest wind flow, which is making it feel a little bit warmer out there, and we are anticipating looks like a warm and muggy night tonight. Now that frontal boundary, which brought us some rainfall over the weekend, is now located to the north of us, and that front is going to be the catalyst for this area of low pressure, which will move on by, and it looks like this will move right along that frontal boundary throughout the day tomorrow, bringing heavy rain near where that low is, but we will also see the frontal boundary associated with it, the cold front, wrap through our area. It looks like late tomorrow evening and continue on into Wednesday morning. So it appears most of the day should be okay. We'll see some showers around in the morning, but the better chance of rain comes later on in the day. 64 right now to the north of that front, and to the south of it, 86 now in Orlando. It's 86 in Miami, 82 in Key West. Temperature dew points are up here, 75 degrees. That's a summer-like reading. 71 now in Key West, 68 in Miami, and the dew point 64 in Tallahassee. Currently it's 79, and that dew point 75, humidity, it makes it feel a little bit more uncomfortable out there. Winds out of the south-southwest at 11. And as far as the rest of the U.S. goes, well, snow falling into parts of central Pennsylvania, snow showers into Michigan near Detroit, and then another snowstorm is developing, which will move into the northern plain states over the next several days. More on that coming up in a few minutes. Alan?
All right, Bob, still to come. Should term limits be placed on local school board members? The discussion before Florida voters head to the polls.
Ever since I can remember, I've been intrigued by industrial design and the optimization.
Wait, that's passion? Ever since I can remember, my passion has been industrial design. We need 3D printers for Miss Adams' engineering program so that we are ready to solve 21st century challenges.
Impressive. Think It Up is a new initiative to support student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classroom today? Think It Up.
Rug Says Art, Sarasota's only area rug superstore.
Coast Guard, we are taking on water.
The United States Coast Guard. They secure our ports and waterways, protect our environment, keep drugs away from our kids, and save lives. It's dangerous work. And in times of triumph or tragedy, the Coast Guard Foundation answers the call to support Coast Guard members and their families. Learn more at coastguardfoundation.org.
Don't allow your weight to threaten your health or control your future. Excess weight or obesity can cause emotional and physical health risks. But you can take control. The Your Weight Matters campaign offers free resources and tips to help you measure and understand your weight. Take the Your Weight Matters Challenge. The free toolkit prepares you to speak with a healthcare provider about your weight. Your weight does matter. Take the challenge and take control today.
When it comes to drinking, what do you think moderation is? The U.S. Dietary Guidelines define moderation as up to 1 drink a day for women and up to 2 drinks a day for men. So what's a drink? The guidelines say a drink equals 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or a cocktail with 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits. Each contains the same amount of alcohol. Like to learn more? Visit drinkinmoderation.org.
Download the all-new ABC 7 First Alert weather app now.
Governor Rick Scott announced he's challenging Bill Nelson today. He is prevented from running for a second term because of term limits. Members of the State House and State Senate are term limited. Now an effort is underway to term limit school board members. And Dwayne Lindo joins us with more. Dwayne.
Well, Alan, at this point, legislators are looking at 2-term maximum and 4 years each. But if you ask a few school board members here in Sarasota, they believe this measure will just diminish stability within local school boards.
Sarasota school board members Jane Goodwin and Shirley Brown have a combined 20 years sitting on the board. As for Caroline Zucker, she's held a seat since 1992. With Sarasota being one of the best districts in the state, Goodwin says it's a system that should not be changed.
We have already over 40% churn in school board members every 4 years. So we're doing a pretty good job. The voters are doing a pretty good job every 4 years deciding who will be elected to the school board.
But starting in November, that may all change. Under a proposed constitutional amendment, school board members would be limited to 2 terms and 8 years in office. It just has to go through Florida's Constitutional Revision Commission for the green light to be on November's ballot. For Goodwin, who also belongs to the Florida School Board Association, she's made it known to the CRC that she's opposed to this proposal altogether.
I just think it's unnecessary, and I think it is another way of sort of slapping around public education, if you will.
She also argues that setting term limits for this area can be problematic and can especially hurt rural counties throughout the state.
They have a very small population, small school population, and they would have a hard time finding people in terming out to run for those positions.
Shirley Brown shares the same sentiment. She admits 2 terms of 8 years is a long time, but feels there should be some stability with who's making the big decisions when it comes to schools and children.
It's great to have institutional memory. I think when someone comes on the school board, there's always that time in the beginning, and I say it's at least the first year, where you're working through things. You're trying to know who your friends are and who aren't, and who you can trust. That takes some time.
Brown sees it as another shot in killing the public school system.
I think that the legislature and the people that they've appointed to the Constitutional Revision Commission are attacking public schools. They go death by 1,000 cuts. I think this is just another one of them.
One of the Florida School Board Association's key points, if the imposition of term limits is intended to encourage more competitive races or reduce the power of incumbency, it doesn't appear to have that effect on the elections of the Florida legislature. Instead, term limits seem to encourage allowing a term-limited legislator to remain in office, unchallenged, until the term is reached. But Senator Greg Steube supports the measure, saying it deserves voter attention.
I think bringing some fresh blood with new ideas in, just like we have term limits at the state level, and gives other people the opportunity to serve.
He says the system was not set up to allow individuals to be in one position for a long period of time.
It was framed with the intent of having people who also had normal jobs to represent their area for a short period of time, and to have more representation of people from the community.
Steube says, bottom line, term limits are fair all around.
We're just simply saying, hey, you're going to have the opportunity as a voter to decide whether you think term limits for school board members are appropriate, and let the voters decide.
Now this measure will return to the CRC, where it must win support from at least 22 commissioners to be placed on the November ballot.
Dwayne, thank you. In the moment, there are no term limits at the Trapezoid. A member of the Sarasota School Board, a state senator, and the education reporter for the Herald Tribune. Stay with
us. The La Musica International Chamber Music Festival, the annual celebration of a distinctive cultural gem in Sarasota, with renowned musicians from around the world. April 9th through April 18th at the Sarasota Opera House. Visit lamusicafestival.org, click on Festival, open tickets, and get your seats now.
Florida Studio Theater presents Blue Suede Shoes, celebrating the birth of rock and roll. From the father of rock and roll, Chuck Berry, to the king himself, Elvis Presley, this musical review features such great hits as Rock Around the Clock, Mustang Sally, Johnny B. Good, and of course, Blue Suede Shoes. Critics are calling Blue Suede Shoes a burst of rock history, dynamic and high voltage. Audiences are calling it phenomenal. Blue Suede Shoes has been held over by popular demand. Tickets can be purchased by calling 941-366-9000 or by visiting floridastudiotheater.org.
Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View.
Grab your hats, we're getting ready for the Derby. I'm Stephanie Roberts on Suncoast View. The Kentucky Derby is right around the corner. We've got an expert to show off some incredible fashions and how you can have fun with the Derby without ever leaving town. So most of us have read some Shakespeare, but there's a whole new twist at Florida Studio Theater. They're going to teach us some and play a great game, plus State Street in the kitchen.
Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate, and it's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
Welcome back. There are those who believe that term limits are the answer to bad government, period. After all, the president is term limited. Obama, Bush, Clinton, Reagan couldn't run for a third term, even if they or you wanted them to. Members of Congress, no term limits. Some of them have been there longer than a lot of our viewers have been alive. They'd argue that experience is an asset. Critics argue that government from D.C. to Tallahassee and now to your local school board could use a breath of fresh air every 8 to 12 years. Joining us for more are Sarasota School Board member Jane Goodwin, State Senator Greg Steube, Elizabeth DeGenis, education reporter for the Herald Tribune. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And Greg, let me start with you, because when folks talk about term limits on the statewide level, in Tallahassee, you so often hear that, you know, it takes state legislators a couple of years to even figure out where the bathroom is, and by the time they get used to where things are and how things are done, you basically have to move on.
I would agree to that to a point. It certainly takes you, if you don't have experience in state government or you haven't been up there as a staff person or something like that, it certainly takes you a little bit of time to get a grip on how the process works, how do you be effective in this process. But a lot of that is the way that, because we have term limits, you know, very quickly, if you're in the House, you decide who your speaker is of your class. The Senate usually takes a little bit longer time to decide who their leader is. And so I think you can see both sides of the argument, but having term limits has given a lot of opportunity to people to run for different state level offices. I mean, the governor's term limited, the cabinet's term limited, all the members of the legislature are term limited. And what this constitutional amendment would do is just give the voters the choice. If the voters think that school board members should be term limited, then they have the ability to vote for the amendment. If not, they don't have to.
Jane, what's wrong with that?
Well, I think it's unnecessary. We already have in the last 4 elections, 2010 through 2016, 41% turnover. And 65% of the races are competitive. So I think the voters are already doing that. And I think when it arises to the 30,000-foot level of the CRC every 20 years, it should be things that need to be impacted in a constitution is pretty serious. We have the ability here locally in Sarasota to enact that, as well as to enact it for any of our other constitutional officers.
All right, so let's explain this for a second. Originally, Senator, you sponsored legislation to put term limits into school board members. That did not make it through the legislative session, correct?
So it moved through the House, I think a couple of committees. In the Senate, we went through one committee, and actually it got amended by a Democrat to add it instead of 8 years to 12, and it passed with bipartisan support out of its first committee, and then got to the second committee and wasn't heard.
So therefore, it is now being talked about at the Constitutional Revision Commission, where it may or may not get on the ballot for everyone to vote on in November. Elizabeth, you cover the school board here in Sarasota. There are members who are fairly new, bringing a different perspective, but there are also members who have been there for quite some time.
Yeah, I was going to say, so if you look at it, if this does end up getting on the ballot and it passes, I mean, it would definitely affect us here. It's not retroactive, but I think that we have 3 school board members. Jane is up for re-election, but she's been in already for 2 terms, and Caroline served on and off. I want to say 20 years now. Shirley's been on since 2006, so it would be
But what's been the dynamic between the newer members of the school board and the older members of the school board? Not in terms of age, I mean in terms of length of service.
Yeah, I feel like that's a loaded question. I mean, there has been a tense dynamic. I think it's unfair to attribute that just to who's been on the board longer. I think that's also because of some differences in the way that people think on the board in that divide. But yes, there has been some tension, I think, between those who are newer members and those who are older
Has
members.
that been healthy?
I mean, that's not for me to say, but I think it has led to disagreements, and if you think that it has allowed, I think, other viewpoints to be represented.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up in this conversation. We'll have much more on possible term limits for school board members in a moment, right after we check the First Alert weather. Stay with us.
All right, crew, let's get started. Sure.
Don't ignore the law. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 days before any digging project so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811.
Hi, I'm Janelle Hale, founder and CEO of the National Breast Cancer Foundation. No one should face breast cancer alone. When I was diagnosed 36 years ago, there was no internet, and I had to make a decision with little information. Early detection saved my life. It could save yours too. To learn what every woman needs to know about breast cancer, visit nbcf.org/hope.
Who else has been taking your prescriptions? Keep your medicine and your family safe and secure. Mind Your Meds. To learn how we can help, visit the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids at drugfree.org.
Our conversation on school board term limits continues right after we get the check on the First Alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. A beautiful day today out on the area beaches. A little bit of a surf there due to the south to southwest wind. It also brought the humidity values up quite a bit to feel like summer-like dew point temperature. Should be a gorgeous sunset tonight. Here are the weather headlines as they read. A front moves in late Tuesday, bringing with it a good chance for some showers and a few isolated thunderstorms, especially to our north. And it looks like the heavier rainfall will fall to our north, but I would not be surprised to see 1 or 2 of those showers and storms become rather significant here later in the day, clearing on Wednesday midday. So we'll see a return to some sunshine, I think, by Wednesday afternoon as high pressure builds in behind the front. And then another cold front due to arrive on Sunday. This one will be a little stronger and will produce the potential for a First Alert weather day for the possibility of some stronger storms. We'll watch that and see how the models progress on that one. But a fairly significant cold front, I think, will make its way through and bring in terms of rain and storms for us on Sunday. Well, right now, that frontal boundary, which brought us some rain over the weekend, has moved back northward and is now stationary out in the Gulf of Mexico. A little area of low pressure will develop along that front. and bring the heaviest rain to our north. That's happening right now, but the humid air will stick around through tonight and throughout most of tomorrow. We'll see some drier air move in on Wednesday once the front moves through, but boy, the rain's pretty heavy all across north central Florida right now, extending from Cross City, Gainesville, all the way over to the east coast in between Jacksonville and Daytona Beach. Those storms are producing some heavy rainfall moving over the same area. They could see about 2 inches of rain with this particular system right now, and then another 2 inches of rain possible tomorrow as that energy develops in the Gulf of Mexico and kind of works across that front. For us tonight, we're looking for cloudy skies and 75 by 11 o'clock tonight. Current temperatures now pretty warm south of the front. It's 86 in Orlando. A bit cooler here, but still warm and muggy as a result of that west to southwest wind. The water temperature now at 78, so keeping things a little bit on the milder side near the coast. 73 behind the front and 72 now in Tallahassee. The feels like temperature 88 degrees in Orlando. We had some 90-degree temperatures today in Sebring, also into Avon Park and Lake Placid, but now things have cooled down into the mid-80s there. As I mentioned, upper 70s to mid-70s right near the water. From Braden and southward to Inglewood, it's 77 degrees now. In Inglewood, 79 here, and the humidity at 88%. The pressure is at 29.99 inches and holding steady. The high today was 84, and that was well above the average, close to a record, 4 degrees shy of the record high of 88 degrees. Now, as far as the forecast goes tomorrow, look for a mixture of sun and clouds in the morning. There's still going to be about a 30% chance for a few morning showers around, mainly inland, and then a better chance of rain comes later in the day. Showers and even a few thunderstorms will be in the mix as the cold front approaches. This is one forecast model showing the heavier rain concentrated to the north near Tampa Bay, Pinellas County. By 8 a.m. Wednesday, it looks like most of the shower activity will be to our north, but there could be a few, as I said, showers inland and 1 or 2 near the coast. And then again, the better chance comes in later in the day. Some rainfall totals could be up to nearly 4 inches tomorrow, all told over the next 24 hours. For boaters tomorrow, we'll start off with a southwest wind at 5 to 10 knots. Those winds will pick up 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be running 2 to 3 feet. Light chop becomes a moderate chop late in the day. The forecast looks like this then. Better chances late in the day and overnight. Wednesday morning, still a chance for a few morning showers, some clearing. And we'll see low 80s Thursday and Friday. Better chances, though, with that storminess comes on Sunday at 80%. Alan will be back with his guests right after this. Stick around.
I heard about the Dotole Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotole Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
The Wild Broadway series brings you Funny Girl. Fanny Brice dreams of being famous and through sheer guts and determination becomes a star of the Ziegfeld Follies. Playing March 28th through April 15th, it's the songs and story that generations have grown to love. Call the Players Center at 365-2494 or visit us at theplayers.org. Don't rain on my parade. Come see Funny Girl.
My name is Julius. I have cerebral palsy. I work for Farmer Jeffy Weising Law Firm. I do a lot of data entry and scanning documents. I want to increase my working experience to make the company much better. At the end of the day, it's good to think of the day's work and to think about what I have accomplished.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to abilitieswork.employflorida.com.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. It's gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah.
I witnessed him have 2 heart attacks in ICU. He went through seizures.
We'd much rather have Aaron like this than dead. A lot of parents don't have that luxury.
He can't talk. He can't walk. This is a condition Aaron will live with for the rest of his life because he abused prescription pills.
Mind Your Meds. Learn more from the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
Welcome back. We're talking about whether term limits should be placed on school board members. And joining us for more is Sarasota School Board member Jane Goodwin, State Senator Greg Steube, and education reporter for the Herald Tribune, Elizabeth DeGenis. And Senator, let me start with you. The president of the School Board Association was quoted as saying, "You couldn't have a vision past 4 years. If they want to know how their proposals affect school board members, we're ready to talk to them." Basically, she is saying that the benefit for not having these in effect is that school board members could look over the long period of time and take the long view of education in their own communities.
Well, you would say the same thing about the legislature then. So I guess then we should be looking at things over a 4 to 8 year period of time. But things happen so fast. I mean, if you look at the time that I was in the state legislature the last 8 years and the changes, and Jane can allude to this, the changes in education policy that we've had at the state level for the last 8 years, it changes on a yearly, every couple of year basis. So I don't really know, they are constantly reacting to the things that we are doing at the state level because we have such an impact on state education policy, and they have to abide by the things that the legislature passes.
Well, Jane, let me ask you this. Since state education policy has changed that much over the last couple of years, does that make it easier or more difficult for local school members to do what you want to do in terms of public education here in your local community?
It makes it more difficult. This year we received, in our base student allocation, 47 cents, which was compressed with our taxing authority here in this county, and we received like minus $24 per student to keep the lights on and the teachers in the classrooms. That's reality. A lot of our budget this year went to safety and security, as it should. But basically the momentum, the continuity, the educational knowledge that is required of this job takes the long look and the long haul. The senator modified his law or statute or possible law from 8 to 12 years, and I like that much better. I think that's far more palatable. But as I say, the voters make a decision every 4 years, and they are making that decision with about 41% turning over every 2 years. So I think that makes a big emphasis on home rule or local authority having the ability to make that decision, and that's why I think that it's important to keep it local. We have one district, one county, Duval County, which we call the ping-ponging district, and all of the constitutional officers are term limited to 8 years. They looked at going to 12 this year and couldn't get it to pass their council, but the appraiser runs for the tax collector when he's termed out, and then he runs for council, and then he runs for something else. So it's not working anywhere but Duval.
Elizabeth, you often hear this debate about term limits, whether we're talking about Congress or we're talking about the State House and so forth, but at least here locally you have not, or have you heard people who go to those school board members talk about wanting to have term limits for those who are there now?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really heard this just in talking to people. I think Jane has a point. I mean, the voters do get to decide ultimately who they want in office, and I think that there is a lot of the nature of the job is it's very granular, and there's a lot of detail-oriented things you need to know to be on the school board.
Is there a difference between, because Jane, you said that there is a substantial turnover on the school board, unlike Congress. They say once you are in, you could spend the rest of your career there. Aren't we seeing on the local level, as Jane said, that the school boards are flipping over by themselves?
Well, I absolutely would support and do support a congressional term limits. I think that's something that needs to happen at the federal level, and just like I supported at the state level. But I mean, there's been some turnover in Sarasota County, but as was mentioned, there's 3 members, including Jane, that have been there for more than 2 terms. So you also have some people that have been there for a while too. So like Jane said, you have a very diverse, different group of folks at the Sarasota school district. But the bottom line is, in my opinion, is the voters are going to get to decide. It's going to be on the ballot. If they want term limits for school board members, then they can vote for it. If they don't, then they don't have to vote for it. And let the voters decide whether they think it's appropriate.
And again, let's talk about the process for a second. The Constitutional Revision Commission is talking about whether or not to put this on the November ballot right now. Elizabeth, it has to pass by a certain percentage for it to go into a law, and it's also involved with a couple of other things that the commission is talking about in terms of public education.
You're right. Yeah, there are other things up for conversation too. I think one of them has to do with charter schools, and the other one has to do with civic literacy. So I think those we'll kind of have to see how those all play out as things progress.
Jane, are you concerned about the whole package
Yes.
of ideas? Why?
Oh, yes, because we've got two that polled well, which is civic literacy and term limits, because the term limit itself, without understanding it, sounds good to a lot of people. But the third one is the ability to authorize charter schools. Right now, only school districts have the ability to authorize charter schools. So any charter schools coming into Sarasota County, we are the authority that actually would acknowledge and approve that application. They're looking at, on the state level, having an authorizer. So what I think would happen is, and it's very sketchy, so the proposal itself doesn't give a lot of detail, but that would perhaps allow others to start making decisions for Sarasota County outside of Sarasota County and looking at things like growth and the need and potential with what is here outside of the county. So it really motivates those folks who are for-profit charters. You know, most of our charters here in this district are homegrown and they're organic, and they are pretty much started by Sarasota County residents. So I have great fear for that.
You know, Greg, you so often hear politicians in Washington talking about, or politicians in general, talking about, you know, local voters making local decisions. Wouldn't this be another attempt of, you know, putting the power in Tallahassee in terms of making some of these decisions, rather than, let's say, the people of Sarasota about whether or not they want more charter schools or not?
Well, I don't think, as it relates to term limits, I mean, I think you're allowing every voter in the state of Florida to decide whether they feel it's appropriate to have term limits at their local school board level. And if you look at most of the polling and where people are on term limits, they're pretty widely supported. So I think, as it relates to that, let the people decide what they think is most appropriate. I tried to pass a bill in the legislature. It didn't pass this year, and the CRC still has to go through some of its process. I think they have another meeting or so that they have to do to get through their process. But if it goes on the ballot, let the voters decide what they think is appropriate for the state.
Elizabeth, is this another example of the changing nature of even school board races? You know, it used to be that a candidate for the school board would spend a couple of hundred or a couple of $1,000 on a school board race. Now we are seeing amounts, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for a school board race. That, it's not what it used to be.
Yeah, I think things have really kind of ratcheted up even in local elections, but I think that, you know, this is just another chance to see how voters feel about whether they want term limits for school board members. It's obviously up for debate if that ends up being in other local positions too, so it'll be interesting.
So Jane, it sounds to me that you would be fine if there was a term limit of, let's say, 12 years,
yes.
But I would imagine you're not going to be in favor of the proposal that's
Well, grouping the civic literacy, the charter school amendment for the authorizer, along with the term limits, all into one yes, is of concern to me. But I am not for this. No, I would not be in favor of this.
Who do you think is pushing this proposal as it is?
The reformers, the choice people, who are all about more charter schools and more vouchers. We have now the third largest amount of charter schools in the country. We have 654 charters, right behind Texas and California, and a lot of them are doing very well, and we believe they're part of our public education system. But I think this might cause a wedge between public schools and charter schools. And then we have voucher programs as well, which we have the largest amount of voucher programs in the country.
Okay, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment, so stay with us.
Set your course for a waterfront lifestyle on Florida's last private island. Discover one particular harbor by Margaritaville. Nearby sugar sand beaches are as easy to find as the warm Florida sunshine. Waterfront residences from the high 400s overlook beautiful Anna Maria Sound, and a new marina with direct access to the Gulf of Mexico. Plus, incredible savings on move-in-ready homes. Come tour designer models today. Visit ophmintousa.com now.
20 years ago, the moviegoers of Sarasota looked up at the silver screen and wanted something more. And they got exactly what they wanted. 20 years of some of the best independent films from around the world. The most iconic Hollywood stars walking the red carpet. The most glamorous parties in Southwest Florida. 20 years building up to the most exciting announcement in, well, 20 years at the Sarasota Film Festival, April 13th to the 22nd.
In life after the military, it's our duty as veterans to have each other's back. I'm retired Colonel Greg Gatson, and it's my mission to help you get the benefits and services you've earned. If you need to file a VA claim, remember these important steps. Submit an online claim through ebenefits.va.gov. Work with an accredited Veteran Service Organization, or VSO. And if you need to attend a VA claim exam, please go. Visit this website to learn what to expect.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? And now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Enjoy some of the best Suncoast restaurants on me. Just go to mysuncoast.com/dining, sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already, and you can win a $50 gift card to a restaurant in our area. We'll pick a winner each week, so go on our website and sign up now.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. So Elizabeth, you are a close observer of our school board, which is really a pretty dynamic place these days. When you watch what goes on there, for the members of the school board who have been there for years now, what do you, do they often cite what happened 5-10 years ago in terms of debating what is before the school board now?
Definitely. I think institutional knowledge is something that's discussed quite often. I see it most commonly both in, I would say, things like union negotiations. That was an extended process this year, and a lot of the discussion went back to what have we done in past years. And then also, I would say, things like budget cuts. I hear a lot of discussions about when we cut this year, how we did it, in past years. So I think it is something that comes into play quite often. It would be hard for me to say what term limits would look like if we did end up having those, but I think it's something that's discussed.
So, Greg, how do you handle things like that if we're talking about a labor negotiation and the history thereof, or the other parts of the budget, when you might have new school board members who don't have that institutional knowledge?
You get elected and you get educated on the issues, just like any person at any level of government. When you run for an office, you need to be educated, and if you get elected, you need to know and be knowledgeable of the issues. Look, the U.S. President's term limited. Every member of the Florida legislature, both the House and the Senate, is term limited to 8 years. The entire cabinet and our governor's term limited. The Sarasota County Commission's term limited. And all this does is allow the voters to decide whether they think it's appropriate for school board members.
Jane, you get the final word.
Well, I just would say, please stay tuned to the Florida Channel for the Constitutional Revision Commission meetings to see government working on these issues. We had 24 proposals and now we have 12. Some of them are grouped, others are single. But pay attention, because these things are important that only come up once every 20 years. I am against this amendment because it is confusing and because it consists of 3 things that are not related. The most unpalatable is the charter school authorizer, but stay tuned and please pay attention, and thank you for having me on tonight.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. We want to thank all our guests for being here tonight. Jane Goodwin of the Sarasota School Board, State Senator Greg Steube, and Elizabeth DeGenis with the Herald Tribune. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather, plus President Trump issuing a warning to the Syrian president, the suspected chemical weapons attack that's turning all eyes towards the Middle East. Stay with us.
You now have the power to prioritize your Facebook feed and get local news and information from the team you trust. Go to the ABC7 Sarasota page on Facebook. Give us a like, then click following and choose See First. That's it. Customize even more by choosing notifications. Choose breaking news, posts, live videos, anything you want to see in real time. Take control of your newsfeed and stay connected to what's happening in your community with ABC7 on Facebook.
There's a lot of fear in coming back to school. I'm a 40-year-old man that walked in there to get his high school diploma.
It was very hard for me, but one of the teachers was Miss Araceli. She gave me direction. Every single time I had a question, she'll put down whatever she's doing and she'll sit there with you until you get it. 50% of getting your high school diploma is walking through those doors. The other 50% is doing the work.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
WWSB ABC7 is an equal opportunity employer, and we're looking for qualified people to join our dynamic team. For a list of current openings and to apply online, visit www.mysuncoast.com/contact/employment. If you're a motivated team player and you want a rewarding career in a fun, fast-paced working environment, WWSB ABC7 could be the perfect fit for you. Check out our list of openings now.
We've all heard how military veterans adjusting to the civilian world may have certain issues.
30. 78.
If only everyone had this issue. No matter what challenge they face, Easter Seals is here for America's veterans.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Good evening, everyone. A beautiful afternoon, a warm one at that, too. You may have noticed the humidity values coming up, and that's a direct result of that southwest to west-southwest wind throughout the afternoon. And that has really brought that humidity up, but also the waves up a little bit, too, along area beaches. I think we may start to see some issues with rip currents beginning late tomorrow and Wednesday morning as those winds whip around. The front moves in late Tuesday now. And now, as far as the heavy rainfall goes, a lot of it will fall to our north, but we will see some showers and some storms around, I think, mainly in the afternoon and evening. However, 1 or 2 showers in the morning not out of the question. We'll get clearing on Wednesday, so beachgoers and vacationers alike, it looks to be better by midday Wednesday, and a little slightly drier, lower humidity around too. And it stays nice right through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, not too bad, but then Sunday could be a first alert weather day, meaning it could be very disruptive with some showers and some thunderstorms in the mix with a stronger front that's expected to move through on Sunday. Well, here's a look now at that frontal boundary to the north of us. That's the same front that moved through as a cold front on Saturday night, Sunday morning. Then it backed up as a warm front today, bringing the heavy rainfall to our north near Gainesville, just north of Daytona Beach. And not much going on here. It looks like it'll stay that way, too. This is the area of concern, though. It's going to stay to our north, I think, overnight. Not a big factor for us, but boy, if you're heading northbound on I-75, you're going to run into some pretty big storms occasionally there, and even the storm tracker indicating some small hail there. But for the time being, there have been no reports of any severe weather. Well, out in the Gulf of Mexico, this area that you see here, the rain, a little bit more intense than it's showing up because it's so far away from the radar. But there's an area of low pressure out here, and this low pressure area will eventually track mainly to our north, and that's where the bigger storms are going to fall as it makes its way off toward the east. Now, associated with the low pressure, you have the counterclockwise swirl. Well, that will bring in some cooler air, and that will set up a cold front, which will be on our doorstep, I think, late tomorrow. The evening planner looks good. Temperatures into the mid to upper 70s, so it will be warm by 11 o'clock, still at 77 degrees. A cooler weather to the north of the front. Obviously, 63 in Jacksonville, 72 in Tallahassee. Warm and muggy out ahead of it. It's 86 now in Miami, and the feels like temperature, not a factor at this point, but boy, it was earlier. Temperatures in the low 90s, it felt like. 79 in the Gulf water temperature. That's really starting to warm up. And the Sarasota area reporting 76, Inglewood 76, 80 in Northport, Bradenton at 77 degrees. Well, the current conditions, we have that south to southwest wind at 11 miles an hour. The pressure is still holding at 29.99. We expect that to fall somewhat. This is one forecast model showing and depicting the heavy rainfall to our north. Although, notice this is the last computer run. We just came down in the last 20 minutes, showing some heavier weather developing into our interior counties. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I do expect to see some showers around in the morning, but eventually the cold front making its way through on into the afternoon and evening, bringing with it a good chance for some showers and maybe even a few heavy thunderstorms. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. For boaters tomorrow, winds will be picking up out of the southwest in the afternoon, seas running 2 to 3 feet with a light to moderate chop on the bays and inland waters, moderate chop coming late in the day. The rain chance will stay fairly high Tuesday night, Wednesday morning 40%. Partly cloudy on Thursday and Friday. Looks good, doesn't it? Sunday is the day we'll keep a very close watch on as we are expecting a lot of clouds, showers, and thunderstorms. Al will be back with primetime headlines right after this again.
I took my first handful of pills, and that's when all my priorities seemed to change.
He would ask to use the bathroom in other people's homes.
He just assumed that they would have medication.
He'd go in their medicine cabinets and steal prescription drugs.
I wish I knew really what these prescription pills were.
We were so naive about the whole drug thing.
These are all synthetic forms of heroin.
Keep your medication locked up because you'll never notice that a pill is gone.
Mind your meds. Learn more from the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
Soldiers in the Army National Guard serve to give back to their country and communities. Their part-time commitment qualifies them for an array of benefits, such as affordable health and life insurance benefits, education benefits, including tuition assistance, student loan repayment and GI Bill programs, a retirement plan based on part-time service, and VA home mortgages. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about all the benefits available in the Army National Guard.
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration.
Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Help put treatment within reach of veterans in crisis.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
A promise was made, a promise that hit the beaches of Normandy, a vow that captured Iwo Jima, a contract that weathered Tet, a pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq, an IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. DAV fights to keep that promise, so all veterans and their families get the benefits and support they earned. For help, visit DAV.org.
Checking primetime headlines, FBI agents armed with search warrants have seized documents from President Donald Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen. That's according to a statement from Cohen's attorney. He says the search warrants were executed by the Office of the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York as a referral from Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Cohen is Trump's longtime personal lawyer. He has been under heavy public scrutiny in recent months for his payment to porn star Stormy Daniels, who claims to have had an affair with Donald Trump. Within the next 48 hours, we should know how the U.S. plans to respond to a suspected chemical weapons attack in Syria. As ABC's Janae Norman reports, President Trump says he is not ruling out any military action.
The monster who was responsible for these attacks has no conscience, not even to be shocked by pictures of dead children.
At an emergency UN Security Council meeting, Ambassador Nikki Haley vowing the U.S. will respond after chilling images following a suspected chemical weapons attack in Syria. At least 40 people killed in the rebel-held district of Doma near the Syrian capital of Damascus. Less than a week before, President Trump said he wanted to pull U.S. troops out of Syria, but this alleged attack possibly slowing that process down.
Do you still want to get out of Syria, Mr. President?
We're going to make a decision on all of that. In particular, Syria. We'll be making that decision very quickly, but we cannot allow atrocities like that.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's regime denies using chemical weapons, claiming the videos are fabricated. Today, Syrian activists claim they took video of Russian specialists allegedly visiting the site of the chemical attack. After their survey, Russia's foreign minister said there were no traces of chlorine or any other chemical substance used against civilians. Meanwhile, President Trump for the first time publicly denounced Russian President Vladimir Putin, blaming him for backing Assad.
Does Putin bear responsibility for this?
He may, yeah, he may.
Just over a year ago, a suspected sarin gas attack in Syria prompted President Trump to order military strikes on a Syrian airfield as a warning to Assad. Experts say that response wasn't effective, and the president says within the next 24 to 48 hours, we'll learn how the administration plans to respond this time.
Nothing's off the table. Nothing's off the table.
And the U.S. is asking for an independent inquiry into Syrian chemical weapons attacks. Janae Norman, ABC News, Washington.
Hundreds of National Guard troops are heading to the U.S.-Mexico border tonight. Many have already been deployed and are now on ground support for the southern border. The Secretary of Defense signed an order last week for up to 4,000 National Guard personnel. The move comes as the fulfillment of President Trump's orders to secure the border until a border wall is built. But the action is raising concerns for some law enforcement officials, saying it is a waste of resources.
We're missing drones, we're missing the sensors, we're missing all those technology that could, be deployed and better secure the border.
This is about saving American lives, saving our Border Patrol agents' lives so they don't get assaulted, so they don't get killed, so they don't get injured.
U.S. troops will not be able to enforce immigration laws. Instead, the Guard will serve in support roles like training and construction. Facebook has begun to alert users whose data may have been collected. This is just one day before Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg is set to be questioned about the controversy in front of Congress Tuesday and Wednesday. Those affected by the hack will see a link posted on their Facebook news feeds. That link will show what apps are connected to their accounts. You'll want to look for Cambridge Analytica. Any app you do not want to have your information will then be able to be deleted. The tax deadline is approaching. You have just a few days left to file your tax returns by this year, April's 17th deadline. ABC 7 spoke with tax expert Judy Hennessy about what happens if you don't file on time.
If you don't file it on time, there is a penalty, and the penalty can be more than 10 times what the actual cost of your return would be. So it always makes sense, if you're not ready to file, that you do file the extension form.
If you do file an extension, you have until October 15th. You'll remember to file an extension to pay what you have estimated to owe, and then pay it from there. Bill Cosby's retrial began today. It is the first time the comedian's case has been to court since the Me Too movement began 6 months ago. All action from the start, just before Cosby walked into the Pennsylvania courthouse. A topless protester jumped a barricade near Cosby and began chanting. She had women's names written across her body, along with the words, "Crosby Rapist." She was quickly tackled by police and detained. Authorities say they have charged the protester, Nicole Rochelle, with disorderly conduct. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.
About every 3 minutes in America, someone is diagnosed with a blood cancer. Light the Night brings together survivors and supporters to bring light to the darkness of cancer and to help fund life-saving research. Join Light the Night today.
The skills you develop as a soldier in the Army National Guard can give you a head start on your career. Gain practical experience with technology and equipment that will give you a leg up in the civilian world. Learn critical leadership skills and to be part of a team. Serve your community and your country part-time while earning money for an education. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn about the paid training and career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard.
We answered the call of duty and left our homes to serve in far-off lands. Now we answer another call, this time at home, in our own communities, to respond in times of chaos. To use our strength, our skills, and our experiences to bring hope amid devastation and destruction. Together, as a team of brothers and sisters, we're continuing our mission to make this country a little stronger and a little better each day. We are Team Rubicon.
Designers do it with style.
Tell me what's going on here.
Why, you don't like my hair? The Mark and Mandy Show. In-depth design ideas.
What is up with the tuck tape here? Let's cover it up.
Amazing beauty and fashion tips.
So Halle Berry has amazing skin. Her secret is coffee grounds. No.
Delicious recipes.
Today, I'm going to show you a special dish that is sure to please that special someone in your life.
Watch the Mark and Mandy Show right here on your favorite channel.
Many websites selling medication may look professional and legitimate, but the vast majority of sites selling prescription drugs are doing so illegally. Criminals use websites to sell counterfeit medications that may contain life-threatening toxins. Dot Pharmacy is a website verification program that helps you identify safe and trustworthy online pharmacies. Purchasing medicine online can be safe and easy. Just look for pharmacy to the right of the dot in website addresses.
ABC 7 News at 7 weeknights.